Hey everyone, welcome to the SuperDraft show, the lineup building show for SuperDraft. Here on RotoGrinders, I am joined by my bearded brother, Genie407. Grant, how are you doing, my friend?
What are you going to say if I actually shave my face once?
My tall brother?
My brother of a similar height.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you can't, does that mean you can't shave? Like, you can, trim it, but I don't know what to say, like, if that becomes a thing.
I mean, I can't shave for one reason and one reason only. I'm too fat and I need to cover up my double chin. That's the only reason I've had a beard. Not because I think it looks better. It's just so people don't know how fat I am.
You almost, like, it made me laugh and cough at the same time. It kind of hurt. Thanks. Appreciate that. So, but yeah, Super Draft. Like, we've been playing. We talked about it week one. We gave out a ton of strategy in week one. We've been using that strategy. Had a really good week one. Broke even in week two, and definitely ready for week three. I think there's a ton of nice value plays when it comes to Super Draft for this week. I don't know. Have you kind of been glancing at it all yet?
Yeah, no, I've definitely looked through it quite a bit. I think there are some ways to go. The problem is it's not as loose with the multipliers as it once was. There are some decent spots to go with. It's just you don't have 7 or 8 viable options with 2x multipliers like you did at the beginning. It's the 2x multipliers are really long shots and could very easily end up getting you 4 points or getting you 40 points. So it's definitely some more GPP stuff and probably not use in cash like it was week one, but there's definitely a whole lot of spots you can go with.
One thing that I've noticed with SuperDraft, if you guys haven't checked out SuperDraft, the promo code is Grinders. SuperDraft.io is the site that we're talking about. Use the promo code Grinders. That way you get the $10 once you deposit and start playing over there. Take advantage of free money anytime you can get free money. So one thing that I noticed this week when I was doing my initial Super Draft, like, it's part of my like routine now on Tuesdays when I start first looking at football to go game by game on Super Draft because I've had so much fun playing over there. It's just a different type of game. It, just re-energizes how you want to play DFS, in my opinion. So I noticed that running backs, depending on injury, and tight ends are a little bit, there's not like 5 to 10 options like there has been in weeks past. I think there's still a ton of wide receiver value. I still think there's plenty of quarterback value, but I feel like one thing that I noticed already this week is running backs and tight ends. I might be using a little bit less multipliers when it comes to those positions this week.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting spot. I feel like running back, you're definitely using less multipliers because the ones that are like 1.5x or 1.4x above, like, really aren't the greatest options. And the fact that you can get a guy like Dalvin Cook at 1.15 or Eckler at 1.2 or Bell at 1.25 or Carson 1.3, like, those are kind of sweet spots where you're getting a little bit extra over the Elliott and McCaffreys at 1x. But if you get into the 1.4, 1.5 range, it's really not much. It's like real volatile there. You got like Breida, Mixon, Sonny Michel, Ingram, and 1.5 is just not enough for me. It'll be interesting if Connor does miss because that opens a little bit up with Samuels there. But like, as of right now, there's just not anything to go with in the higher range on running back.
Yeah, obviously, the Kansas City situation is another situation we're looking at as far as running backs go for value. But there's a couple guys that I feel like, we could potentially see, and maybe in even a little bit tougher matchups that have the multipliers that I'm kind of looking for. But let's get started here at quarterback. I feel like the first place we need to start is just kind of at the top and just kind of work our way down. That's, kind of what we did last week. When we're looking at quarterback, I do think there are some multipliers that we'll get to in the 1.5 all the way to like the 2.0 range. But is there anybody in this 1 to like 1.35 range that you would play in a cash game format?
In a cash game format, no. It's just not worth it. The volatility on quarterback, like the ceiling floor combo, is just not big enough. Lamar Jackson, if he goes for 30 points, that'll be 36 points total. And you got to realize that some guy at a 1.9 to 2 multiplier is probably going to end up with 18 points. I don't think it's worth it. The downside is too significant here. Mahomes just not worth it. Matt Ryan multiplier is all messed up. Dak Prescott could be a blowout, so I'm not really trusting him. Winston and Watson are the two lowest I go. 1.3 is still significant enough with Winston going up against the Giants and just a plus matchup where people are off him. He's probably going to get a little bit less attention than he should, considering what he's done the last few weeks. People are going to be off him, even though he still has the upside. And then Watson going up against the Chargers here. Watson can put up 30 at any given time. So at a 1.3x multiplier, I want a guy to be able to get 40. And Mahomes not getting 40 points. Ryan not getting 40 points. Dak and Lamar very unlikely getting 40 points. So it's 1.3 is kind of where I'm drawing the line for cash.
Yeah, in tournaments, I think you could make an argument for Lamar Jackson just because he's facing Kansas City. It's going to be a high-scoring game. But I'm with you. Winston's an interesting tournament play too. But let's go down a little bit here, looking to get more out of the multiplier. One guy that stands out to me, talent alone here, is Aaron Rodgers at 1.55. I know it's a tough matchup against Denver. Denver is a really solid defense, allowing the fourth fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks. But do we take a look at Rodgers here just because we're getting a multiplier on one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best quarterback in the league?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's worth a shot there. 1.55 is a pretty good multiplier for him. We all know that he can easily end up crushing his value here. He hasn't been great so far this season, but you look at the matchups he's had. Minnesota, Chicago, obviously two of the toughest matchups you can get from a defensive standpoint. And they're both divisional matchups, which change things a lot. He gets a matchup here versus Denver. 1.55 is pretty good. I don't know if he's the top option, but you're right. Like, just talent alone gives him enough of an upside here with the 1.55 multiplier that he's very much in play.
See, I want Cam to play because I like Kyler Murray. If Cam plays for this game to kind of be a little bit more faster pace, the score to be nice. He's 1.65. Matthew Stafford's 1.7. But let's talk about these max multipliers. And I know it's not a max, but Jacoby Brissett's 1.95. And then the other one is Daniel Jones making his debut here, and he's a full 2X. What are we looking at as far as these guys, in your opinion?
So Brissett would be my preferred option, but both of them are – one of them is probably going to end up being my cash game QB. It's in all likelihood going to be Brissett going up against Atlanta defense. It's not very good. I believe that they're favored. Are they favored, or is it a 3-point spread the other way? I think it's Indy's favored by 3. So he should be getting a decent amount of workload in this game. We saw the first 2 games, not easy matchups, LA and Tennessee, and those are good defenses. And he still managed to get 16 and 17 points respectively against those two teams. 2x multiplier, that puts him at 35. I mean, he's going to beat Mahomes most of the time with 35-point expectation. And now he gets an Atlanta team, so he can easily end up with 20, 25 points. We could potentially see a 50-point outing here from Brissett. He's probably the top option on the board here. He is going up against an Atlanta team that not only are they not great in the secondary, but they also allow a significant amount of passes to the running back. So if they get behind in the game, we could see Hines getting into the game here and getting a whole lot of work out of the backfield, which will help raise Brissett's ceiling. So no matter what, like, worst case scenario, he gets you 30 points. Best case scenario, he gets you 50 points here. He's the guy I'm looking at. And maybe if Shepard's in or playing this week, then Daniel Jones could potentially be an option just because, like, it's football. Anything can happen. Tampa Bay is not a good defense, and we don't really know what Jones is going to do exactly, but we've seen rookie QBs come in and just absolutely destroy before. This could be a scenario, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of weapons. He still has Saquon takes an 80-yard pass for a touchdown. Then you immediately have, 10 points there at a 2x multiplier. He's already hit his value.
Yeah, I'm going to be using him quite a bit on SuperDraft for tournaments, but I'm with you. I think Brissett's the cash game guy. So if we're looking at like kind of a safer lineup, it's still Wednesday. There's a lot that can change, but we're just doing more of a first glance cash build like we've done the last couple weeks. But I think at first glance for me, Brissett's probably the guy. Depending on what happens with Cam, obviously that would open up another 2X quarterback. I like the fact that Mason Rudolph is not 2X, doesn't make him chalky. Kirk Cousins kind of stands out. Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing the ball a ton. Something that I've done so far, Grant, is I've really taken advantage of the multipliers at quarterback more than any other position, quarterback and wide receiver, because I feel like those are the high upside and positions that we can really gain the multipliers on.
Yeah, and someone that we didn't mention that's in play is Josh Allen.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, 1.45. SuperDraft does give the multiplier for 100 rushing yards, or I believe is it 300 or 350 passing yards? I can't remember.
300, yep. 2 points for 300 yards passing. Yeah.
So he could potentially get one or both against this terrible Cincinnati defense. We haven't seen him put up a massive game like he did at certain points last year. He did go up against the Jets and the Giants. Giants obviously not a good defense. And I believe that game was a bit out of hand. I think it was 28-7. So there was no real need for him to pass. But he was putting up massive numbers in the first few quarters. So we could potentially see a game where Cincinnati, they can still put up points almost against anyone. We saw what Ross and Boyd ended up doing. Makes a potential good game stack here. But even for cash, we could see Allen with a 100-yard rushing game. A 100-yard rushing game with a touchdown, not even including any of the passing yards, at 1.5 multiplier there is roughly 27 points. And so if he gets a 100 yards rushing game, you have a 27-point floor, plus all the passing yards, plus any touchdowns he ends up getting. Did I do that right?
Yep. I think so.
Let's see.
24 points. Yeah.
18,
yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Let's switch it over here to running back. We've already talked at the beginning of the show. We feel like running back's a position. It's kind of interesting this week. McCaffrey, Elliott, let's just talk about all these guys 1 to 1.25. Everybody from McCaffrey to Lev Bell. In cash games on a normal DFS site, we're targeting these guys. These are our guys. How do you want to approach it this week? At first glance, obviously, it's really going to depend on Connor. It's going to depend on the Kansas City running back situation. Because if we get a 2X running back, we're obviously going to take advantage of that. But is there anybody in this 1 to 1.25 that you feel okay with in cash games?
Honestly, it hasn't been the case for the majority of the time, but it is the case this week where they're the highest projected points totals here. You don't have too many 1.5 plus multiplier guys that are very good at all or in good spots or anything like that. It's pretty much just Kerryon Johnson is the one guy that really has some potential here. So you're getting McCaffrey, you're getting Zeke, you're getting Saquon all at one, but they also have the 2-point bonus for 100 rushing yards or 100 receiving yards. Either one of them can get it. It's still only a half-point PBR site, which makes things a little tough. Oh gosh. Well, sorry. 1 second. I think I got a piece of my headphone stuck in my ear, so that's gonna be fun to get out later. Either that or it fell out. I don't feel it anywhere, so we'll see if I have to go to the hospital after this. But that's neither here nor there.
Might delay the recording of the morning grind tonight, that's all.
Nah, I can just use a different ear. Yeah, I've got 2 of them. Oh, gosh. So in any case, McCaffrey or Elliott, both of them are fine options. They can both get the 100-yard bonus. Both of them can easily go for 25 points, and that's really all you need when it comes to cash. I think I slightly prefer Cook because Cook or Eckler and Bell and Carson, those 1.15 to 1.3 multipliers are probably a little bit better when all things are considered. Any one of them can go for 100 rushing yards. Any one of them can have a similar point total to Eckler or McCaffrey here. So it gives a nice little bump getting those guys in there, and I think that they're probably the better way to go.
Yes, I think Bell's probably my favorite. He's averaging 27 touches already in 2 games. We know that he's going to get the touches. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. We know that the points are going to be there. So I think that Lev Bell at 1.25.
Trying to fix my headphone. Sorry, Stevie, I can't hear you at all.
That's okay.
Just keep talking.
we could talk so much smack about Grant right now. Like Devin could pop up and like say everything. But yeah, like I think that, Lev Bell at 1.25 is super solid because of the touches. I don't hate Carson here. But like Mack is the guy that stands out at 1.4, David Johnson at 1.4.
DJ's
those
my favorite.
DJ, yeah, just 1.4, like he has the same type of upside as long as he's 100% ready to go, good to go. Like he has the same type of upside as some of those guys at the top, and he's getting the 1.4x. So I like Mac and DJ a lot here at this 1.4. And then you mentioned Johnson. He's a guy that I have written down here at 1.65 with them releasing Butterball. Johnson should get a lot of the work here. It's not the best matchup in the world, but seeing the field more will be very beneficial for Johnson here.
Yeah, and please don't insult CJ Anderson. He's the one guy that gives me hope that I could have been in the NFL with a body like this.
Butterball, man. It's my guy. I'm not insulting him. I'm just Butterball. So yeah, like Johnson's facing the second highest DVOA in the run, Philadelphia, but you're getting the multiplier. If he finds the end zone, like you're there, like he's getting to 20, like you almost have to guarantee that. So, what else at running back? Like if you're doing a first look cash game, I think we throw in DJ for sure. Just depending on injury, like again, I like Bell and I like Mack. Is there anything else that we're missing here?
I mean, for cash, no. It's Bell, it's DJ, it's Carson, it's Eckler. I think are the top options, but I'm not going to argue with Zeke or McCaffrey or Barkley or even Aaron Jones. Like the 1.35x multiplier is not too bad, but I think DJ and Bell are the top two options, and potentially throwing a RB in the flex is not a bad idea here.
All right, well, let's take Bell for now. We'll revisit it again. Like you're paying attention to injuries. This is definitely like something you're going to have to watch. Wide receiver, obviously Julio coming off a big game is 1x. Anything in cashier in that 1 to 1.2 that you like?
Keenan and DeAndre are potential options here. 1.15 and 1.25 are not bad multipliers of them. We both know that Keenan's going to get a massive workload as he has each week. Only ended up with 13 points last week, but he didn't end up getting into the red zone or getting into the end zone. We saw what he did the week before, 24 points. Gets that here, then he still ends up with 30. He's a potential option. We know that DeAndre at 1.2x or 1.25x multiplier, that he can end up with 30 points in any given game. So I think that those would be the only two options. Just that extra 1.15 helps over guys like Adams or Jones. Like you can go with Adams. He's got the same multiplier as Keenan. I just like more of the guaranteed workload and the better matchup.
Yeah, see, like Hopkins at first look, I was like, wow, I will gladly take advantage of this. Like the Chargers are allowing 102 yards already to wide receivers ones after the first two games. So, yes, like Hopkins instantly stands out to me as a potential cash game play. I like Kenny Golladay at 1.35. We already talked about the Tampa wide receivers. They're kind of interesting here. In that matchup, I would prefer Godwin just because of the extra 0.1. But like let's talk this 1.3 to 1.5 range. We have some questionable players in here. We have some injuries. Is there anything that's really standing out to you in this range?
I mean, just at first look, it's Watkins, Golladay are both two decent options. We saw what Watkins did the first week, and he didn't really have a great week last week, but he still ended up with 13 targets. We have to assume that he's going to get a pretty big workload here. He has all the upside in the world, considering how many targets he's probably going to end up getting here. Like Hartman and Robinson are both in the offense, but we're not really expecting them to just go off like they did last week. They very easily could. They're very much in play, but Watkins should be in for a significant workload in this matchup here. Golladay, clearly the number one guy. You look at what he's done through the first 2 weeks. Absolutely been fantastic and getting a large amount of volume there. And we saw it last year before he got injured. So we know that that's probably going to be true or hold true. And then we have a guy, Emmanuel Sanders, who's been crushing so far this year. 13 targets last week. I saw him in the game. He looks entirely fine this year, and he's going up against a Green Bay team that's all right on defense, but not great by any means here. And like 1.45, he can get 100 yards here. He can get a touchdown. That's all you need at this type of multiplier here. The volume's going to be there. It's only him and Sutton and a little bit of Deshaun in there. Like, Flacco's not a good quarterback, but they're probably going to be coming from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball often, so the volume of targets is going to be there for Sanders there. Outside of them, Lockett probably more of a GPP play, just simply because he has the ability to go for a very long touchdown at any given point there. So he can end up with 100 yards, a touchdown very easily. 1.45, that's a great multiplier for him. And then old man Larry Fitz, 1.5 multiplier. Guys just getting volume. They're going to run a lot of plays. So every single week, I mean, he hasn't had a single game this year where he has failed to reach 100 yards.
And he's doing it like he's not doing on these like short, easy catches. Like they're using Fitz like it was 5 years ago. Absolutely love Fitz at 1.5. I'm going to throw him in this cash build. Even though it gives us 2 Arizona players, I'm perfectly okay with that, getting the multipliers. You talked about a lot there as far as the 1.4 guys. I don't want to go over too much more. I love the Sanders call. I prefer DK Metcalf on a site like this. We're going to get the higher multiplier, and like he's going to be the red zone threat on that team. So I kind of like him more than I like Lockett, but I won't disagree with you on the Lockett call. Just kind of scrolling here and going into this 1.5 to like 1.7 range. Robbie Anderson, he's 1.7. Nelson Aguilar is 1.465. Ridley is 1.55. Christian Kirk, speaking to that whole Arizona throwing and running and playing a lot of plays, he's 1.7. There's a lot of good options. Like I'm seeing a lot of good options at wide receiver over 1.5x this week. And I'm going to be mixing and matching a lot in this range because I like it. Like we know the Jets are going to be playing from behind against New England. Robbie Anderson clearly was, Luke Falk's favorite, target. It wasn't even close. And he's got a 1.7. Like if I get 100 yards, he doesn't even need to get in the end zone, and I'm absolutely crushing at 1.7.
Yeah, no, there's tons of options here. You already mentioned a lot of them. One guy that I don't know if you mentioned is John Brown, who's clearly the focal point of this passing attack here over in Buffalo. That Beasley gets a decent amount of work, but John Brown, 10 targets week 1, 8 targets week 2 here. He can take a ball for 70 yards at any given time. Like 1.6 is way too low of a multiplier, and if you're pairing Josh Allen with anyone, absolutely John Brown's the way to go here and has massive upside. You mentioned Aguilar. Kirk, like you said, dude's getting a good workload here. Week 1, like people are going to why does it have rushing tips? That's weird. I forgot. He got 12 targets week 1. Got 8 targets week 2 here. Over 100 yards. Everyone was high on him before the season began, and now he actually gets a decent matchup here going up against Carolina. Detroit and Baltimore are tough matchups, especially Baltimore. So he's a guy at 1.7x that I really like. Outside of them, I mean, in this range, no one I really want.
Yeah, like there's so many good options here in this range that I think like the thing is too, Grant, like when we get into this like 1.75 to like 2, there's a ton of options down here. Like one of my favorite plays on the entire slate is Sutton at 1.85. Like he's getting plenty of work from Flacco. It's been him and Manny Sanders. Like if we're kind of projecting like, and the interesting thing is like, we're going to be able to make a Green Bay Denver stack and get plenty of multipliers because of, like they're just, I don't want to say priced because like, that's what we're so used to saying, but like they just kind of price these guys like they're facing tough defenses, and like we're getting really good multipliers on that entire game. Green Bay, Denver, the entire game outside of like Devonta Adams, we're getting a ton of multipliers. So is there anybody like that's standing out to you? I will say that there's the other guy that I think is really like in consideration for cash is Randall Cobb at 1.95. Gallup's not going to play. They're facing Miami. Like the only issue and only concern is I have is just like, is Miami going to be able to score any points to keep this game remotely close? But like even Smith, one of those guys probably end up in my cash lineup just because we get a massive multiplier in a game where Miami's just terrible. Their defense is awful.
Yeah, no, it's it gets interesting in this range. We also have Robinson at 1.8 if you want to chase what he did last week, which
right.
I'm probably going to an extent just because it's Mahomes. He can do anything.
Really quick though, I have a question. Like, would you take Robinson at 1.8 or would you take Hartman at 2.0?
I'd probably take both. Like not
hope that just Watkins gets the tough defense and Kelsey doesn't have a monster game. The running game doesn't do anything, and just take both wide receivers.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the situation with Williams, all that stuff. They still have one of the highest implied team totals on the board in a game that's supposed to be close. So he's not bad. Am I crazy for Preston Williams, Love?
No, I don't think so either. He's another guy. 1.9. I have him written down. The whole Giants wide receiver core, like we have to see what happens there. There's a ton of multipliers in that whole situation. So injuries are very interesting when it comes to this site more than I feel like any other site, just because you could really take advantage here. Yeah,
gosh, there's so many darn options. We did mention Beasley. Oh gosh. Yeah. One of these weeks he's going to end up with a 100-yard game. A 1.9x multiplier, 100-yard game baseline minimum is, what is it, 12, 14, about 28 points almost for Beasley if he gets 100 yards. That's massive.
Without even a touchdown. Like, add in some catches, it's so solid. So, all right, let's round out this early week cash build. We have Fitz in there. Is there two other guys that we want to plug in here?
I say that we do Fitz, we do DeAndre. Not a great multiplier, but the workload's absolutely going to be there.
You're getting the floor, like, by far.
Yeah, and then I would say Christian Kirk, but we already got Fitz in there. So I'm willing to just know the fact that Falk's going to be airing the ball out a ton later on in the game, and Robbie Anderson's probably the guy that's going to get the workload. So I'd either go with him or we can take a shot on Hardman.
Let's take the multiplier with Hardman and just say, let's take the 2x. It's early in the week. A lot can change, but we're going to take the 2x multiplier on Hardman in this build. We're getting plenty of floor. I feel like with DJ Bell, Fitz, and Hopkins, let's take one of those high multiplier guys and add a little bit of upside here in this cash build. I'm not your typical cash game play either. Before we move on to tight end, we have a question in chat. Any Diggs shares?
On SuperDraft, what's his multiplier? It's not great.
1.25 against Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not worth it to me. The only way that I'm using Diggs is if I'm using Cousins for his 1.7 multiplier. That's pretty big, but that's really the only thing.
And I guess like if Terrell Williams sits, like Renfro and Grant are both 1.8, 1.85, so like that's another injury situation. So
if that happens, then I'm gonna run out a few Carr double wide receiver.
Yeah, but
stacks.
Waller is 2x. Like let's move over to tight end. Like Waller's 2x. Like
Waller's the top guy for cash for tight end. It's just you get 2x for a guy that's playing all the snaps, that has a good workload, that is someone that really is the only guy that Carr can really trust that much anymore. Seen it the last 2 weeks, 9 points, 10 points. You're taking 20 out of your tight end every single time, and he hasn't even gotten into the end zone yet. Yeah,
like there's zero chance that I don't play him at tight end in cash games. But let's we've been approaching this by kind of breaking it down by each multiplier. Let's go 1 to 1.4 here at tight end. The guy that stands out to me the most is Evan Ingram. Like, I feel like we got a young rookie quarterback. He's going to throw this tight end on these easy passes. I think Ingram's one of the best plays on the entire slate in general this week. And now we're getting him at a 0.25 multiplier higher than Kittle and Kelsey. Like, I love Ingram here.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. It's just like, is he worth it? I don't know. Like, yes, Ingram's going to get a high volume of targets, and I guess part of it depends on if Andrews is playing or not. If Andrews is in the game, going up against a bad Kansas City defense in a high-scoring game where he's going to be airing the ball out. We've seen that Jackson likes to throw it to two guys. It's Hollywood and it's Andrews. So either one of them is fine. Like, Ingram's good, but I just don't know if he's worth it, especially we can get Ertz with a similar workload in all reality at a 1.3x multiplier.
No, I think that Ingram, Ertz, and Andrews are the guys, if you're under 1.5, that you're attacking here, just because you talked about Andrews already. Just to talk more on Ertz, like, we know Djax isn't going to play. Jeffrey's really banged up. There's a good chance he doesn't play. Like, this could be the week that we see Ertz just get locked in and just see a ton of targets and a ton of workload here.
Yeah.
Do we know if Goddard's going to play yet? Like, is it too early to tell on that?
I'll double check, but I don't.
He's still day-to-day as of Wednesday. So, like, even if he's out too, like, that's 3 pass catchers that are very involved in this offense. So I like the Ertz call.
Yeah. I mean, it's early on the week. It's Wednesday. We won't know for a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot to like in that range, and even slightly higher range. I mean, OJ Howard has been trash all year. How many people are going to play him after his goose egg last week at a 1.55 multiplier against a team that has just been trash in deep passes?
I'm all aboard going right back to the well. The coach acknowledged that he's going to get the ball, and he's too talented not to be getting targets and looks. So I think that we'll see more OJ Howard, and we could be wrong. Like, this could be a spot where we don't see it and he doesn't get the workload. But like, even Hoxton, Vance McDonald is a very strong player at 1.7. We saw, Mason Rudolph come in and just where is my tight end multiple times. So Vance McDonald at 1.7. So we have some ways to potentially get off of Waller in tournaments, but like, Waller's still my guy. I'm telling you right now, he's going to be my highest owned tight end. That's not going to change.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's no one in cash that you could potentially pivot to. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So we're gonna plug in Waller here for cash. Let's talk flex. We have a ton of wide receiver value this week. Obviously, running backs give us our floor. How do you want to approach a flex in a cash? Most weeks it's running back for me.
Most weeks it's running back for me too, but the thing is there's too many viable options. Honestly, I think it's John Brown. 1.6x multiplier. He's a guy that's going to get volume. And so he's going to end up with that floor, but also his big playability is going to give him a ceiling too. 1.6x, when you're considering all the running backs are around 1.2 to 1.3 that we want to use. I think it's either John Brown or we go with a guy like Chris Carson.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the wide receiver in the flex this week, and usually I'm a running back flex guy, but it's just one of those weird weeks that, like, we're going to be playing – there's a good chance we're going to be playing, like, 4 wide receivers on a lot of builds this week over there, just because there's so many plays in that 1.6 to 2x range at wide receiver this week, and there's not at running back. So, all right, that was the cash build. Let's build a tournament lineup here. And then, we've let chat kind of pick a game. So if you're interested in chat, throw a game out there and we'll build a game stack. What do you want to build here when it comes to a tournament lineup? Is there a game that you want to target that's standing out to you?
I mean, a game in particular, if you're going for that super, super high ceiling here, it's a little bit tough. Honestly, like, I want to go with a 2X guy. We could potentially do a Daniel Jones stack. I think is not a terrible idea.
Yep, I like that one. Let's do it. So Daniel Jones, 2X. Would you pair him with any running backs from either side of this game, or are we just overlooking? Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's go wide receiver here. Obviously, it's a little tough to do it early, but if Shepard sits, all the other wide receivers are 2X. Every single one.
Yeah, if Shepard sits, then you go with Fowler and or Shepard. It's just that simple. I mean, 10 targets for Fowler last week. We had 3 for Shepard. Latimer is questionable here with a concussion. If he's in, you go with him. But, like, these are all trash wide receivers, but they're going to get work. It's just how things are going to go. I think Fowler's the very, very obvious guy. I think Shepard's probably number 2. But it's going to be interesting with a new quarterback coming in. You don't know who he's going to favor. You don't know who he has a connection with. And, like, honestly, any of the second-team guys that have been on second team all year who are going to roll into this lineup now with all the injuries could have a better connection with Jones.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested. Like, I'll have to go back and look because I know Daniel Jones played quite a bit in preseason. I think that it'd be interesting to go back and kind of look at, and that's something that I'll do before the morning grind tonight when we record. But just go back and see who he was kind of favoriting because it was probably these guys. Like he probably played with Fowler and those guys. So going back to preseason and just kind of looking at who he played with here and see who he was kind of favoriting in this build. You know, do you want to run it back with maybe like OJ Howard? Everybody's down on OJ Howard. Like, you know, that's kind of some tournament ceiling on the other side.
Yeah. No, OJ Howard's not a bad guy at all to go with here. Honestly, don't hate. If I remember correctly, the what's it called? The multipliers on both Evans and Godwin aren't terrible. I think they're 1.5 and 1.45.
1.2 and 1.3.
Okay, they are bad. Never mind. It's hard to remember all these things. So, yeah, OJ Howard's a very clear guy to go with.
Yeah, so if I'm running it back, OJ Howard, should we get a third piece of the Giants' offense in here, or are you okay with Jones and Fowler?
I mean, Jones? Oh,
Daniel Jones
sorry,
Fowler,
Jones, the quarterback. I was thinking wide receiver. I think at this point you throw in another wide receiver and you adjust later on the week. I'd probably go Shepard. If Jones is going to have a big enough game for him to be worth it, which is 20 points, then that either means that Saquon absolutely went off in the receiving game or it means that Ingram went off. So we can throw Ingram in at the flex. It's just 1.25x multiplier is probably not the greatest way to go. You're not getting enough tournament upside. So if you're going to get the tournament upside, you pretty much need it to be one of the other wide receivers that goes off. So I'd probably throw Shepard in.
Yeah, and like if starting Shepard plays, it's an easy just switch. You just take out the one Shepard at 2x, you put Shepard in there at 1.6 and call it a day. Let's see here. Let's go to running back. There was a guy that I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about in cash, obviously. But Singletary is a guy that I really like this week. You know, we've already kind of talked about Buffalo. Assuming he plays, you eventually think he's going to get some more touches. And at 1.65 against Cincinnati, this seems like a spot where I'm golden if he breaks like a 30-yard touchdown run or something along those lines.
Yeah, you're golden if he just gets a touchdown.
Yeah. The other situation that I want to talk about, like, what are your thoughts here when it comes to, like, San Francisco? They used all three guys last week. But, like, Breida's 1.5, Mozart's 1.7, and Wilson's 1.8. Like, Mozart at 1.7 really stands out.
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of stand out to an extent. It's just trying to figure out which one. And on a normal site, I don't really think you take the chances. But on a site like this, where you could potentially get a guy getting 20 points, I mean, just look at what Jeff Wilson did last week. 15 points. At his current multiplier, that's close to 30. So I think you can take a shot on any of them. Just trying to figure out which one to go with is tough. I think you're probably right. Mozart is probably the guy to go with.
Let's throw him in this one. Let's take some multipliers here. Like we're going multiplier heavy with Daniel Jones, and we're going for full-on multipliers here. Running back situation in Miami is so terrible. Like, you can't even get...
I mean, like, normally I'd be like, yeah, let's use a 1.8x Miami running back. Hope we get the right one. But are they going to be running?
Is there a right one? Did you see Balaj on that pass this week? Like, I don't want to touch. I don't want that.
Gosh,
I don't want to get hit.
Terrible. If it was a full point PBR site, it'd be a little bit different. But, I mean, he had 5 targets and 6 yards. I think he only had 1 reception. I mean, it's just, he's bad. He's bad.
I'm gonna throw in Kerryon Johnson just to get we talked about him earlier. 1.65. Let's just take him. What wide receiver? Let's take a high multiplier wide receiver.
Beasley.
Beasley or Cobb or both. We have a flex.
Yeah, let's throw Beasley and Cobb in.
Let's do it. So there's a lot. We're maximizing the multipliers when it comes to this tournament team. We don't have anybody under 1.5. I'd be okay with doing something else at tight end, normally, because OJ Howard obviously has that high risk, high reward, but at 1.55 multiplier here, we're taking advantage of the site and using the multiplier. So, yeah. So chat wants us to build a Arizona Carolina stack. So let's look at that.
That's just so darn easy.
It is it's really easy. Let's just start with the obvious here. Murray, Fitz, Kirk.
Yeah.
I don't know. The interesting thing here is do you really run it back with a lot of Carolina? Would be my biggest thing.
I mean, it's tough here because McCaffrey can get a lot done, but I like Samuel's multiplier here. He hasn't done a whole lot, but he still ended up with 11 points in the last game, 1.85x multiplier. Depends on if Cam's going to be in there. You could potentially go with Greg Olsen at 1.4, but I think he's still questionable. He's limited in practice today. It's tough. It's tough trying to figure out. I think you are required to throw one in from the other side. But even going with McCaffrey here, we saw what McCaffrey did the first week. We could see it again this week. 39 points the first week, even at 1x multiplier is fine. If you're not throwing in Samuel, if you're not throwing in Moore, if you're not throwing in Olsen, I think you throw in McCaffrey.
All right. So for the sake of this build, let's throw Samuel in there. Cam's going to play. So we're going to play I'm not saying Cam's going to play. I'm saying in this build, if Cam plays, Samuel's coming off a 13 target game. If I get 13 targets at 1.85, I know I'm going to probably hit value here. Again, we just go back to the running back situation. We've talked about so many of these guys and who we like and everything along those lines. Have we missed anybody? Should we have talked about the New England running backs against the Jets?
I think it's too much of a crapshoot. Any one of them could go off, but what are the odds that one of them goes off with 30?
Who would be the guy would be my thing. Which game script favors a 2-touchdown game? And I think Sonny Michel would probably be the guy in this format because you're not getting the full point for a catch. So if Michael's Sonny Michel gets 17 carries here and scores twice, at 1.45, if he scores twice, obviously it could be a massive play.
Yeah. And I'm not really sure, does he have a single target on the season?
I doubt it. I can look it up really quick, but I highly doubt it.
Look like he does.
Yeah, he 21 attempts against Miami, 0 targets, and then 15 attempts against Pittsburgh, 0 targets. And they control both of those games. They should control this game. For Sonny Michel to get there, you need 2 touchdowns. There's a good chance he potentially gets 100 yards rushing. He averaged 4 yards a carry last week. He looked a lot better against Miami last week than he did against Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The big tournament's only 10,000 or 7,000 people. So when you're saying get there, I'm going to look at it. Might be a good idea to look at last week's tournament and see what the winning lineup was, because I believe that it had a guy that had around 10 points. I know I was getting close there with with David Johnson there at sub 10 points. So you don't need everyone on your team to go off. And Sonny Michel, if he just gets 100 yards rushing, gets into the end zone once, you can easily still take down the tournament.
Yeah, so the winning tournament lineup last week was 241.51, and it had Scantling at 5.95. Now it had Robinson. He had his 2X guy there, Robinson, and way different than the first week. We saw Eckler at 1.35 and we saw Barkley at 1.1. Like, we didn't see anything under 1.4 in the first week as far as multipliers go. So obviously it hit on like Andy Dalton. Like, even if you think about like Andy Dalton last week, he didn't have that monster game, but he still got 38, not 0.95 because he had 1.8 and he paired him with John Ross who had 1.75. So you're right. Like, if you're going to have that guy that has the monster game at 2x. We've seen that already for the first 2 weeks. So it's just all about getting the right big end play.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm looking at my top lineup, and I had 3 guys under 17 points and still ended up putting a 208. There's going to be so many guys with a 30-point game that it's just all about getting all those possible guys into your lineup. So you want every single person you put into your lineup outside of maybe a tight end, you want 30-point upside. Tight end's the one where it's not going to be like it was last week where you had McDonald and you had Andrews in there who went off for massive games. You don't need a 30-point guy in tight end. But there may be one. It's too tough to figure out where you basically just need 30 points from every other position.
So do you think that, kind of talking about last week really quick, do you think that Waller, who is 2x again this week, sees the same type of ownership? He was 47% owned last week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it might come down a little bit because it's a tougher matchup, but I still don't see him being under like 35%.
Yeah, I don't see a chance that he's not incredibly, like just completely the chalk.
Yeah, like Robinson obviously was the week last week, like, 0.4% owned, 68.4. There's plenty of 2x plays this week. That's it, Grant. Let's jump out. We got some baseball coming up behind us. Before we go, give me your favorite 1.75x or better play on the week.
1.7.
It can't be Waller.
Oh gosh, that's a little bit tough here. And we're not doing quarterbacks, I'm guessing.
No, I feel like we'd both take Brissett.
Yeah, probably would. Let's see.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. Preston Williams. That's the guy I'm going with.
All right. I'm going to take Randall Cobb. Like I already kind of said it. I like Cobb at 1.95. No Gallup in there. I think Miami's terrible, and Cobb can help this team move the chains. Not like it's going to be hard for them, but if you guys haven't already, SuperDraft.io. That way you guys can check them out. Use the promo code Grinders. That way you get the $10 bonus once you make your first deposit. Start playing over there. We're going to get out of here. You'll find us again later today on the Morning Grind podcast. We're talking some more football. Excited to break down all the football games with Grant. I think this is the first time that we broke down football games together.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited for it. Hopefully I can get the earpiece out of my ear.
We got Dean and Big T up at 5 o'clock Eastern talking baseball on the Yahoo show, and then Kevin Roth and Cheese, the GOATs, on the Crunch Time Premium here at 6:15 Eastern. It's going to wrap it up here for the Super Draft show. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you again next week.